Hey, consider this your invitation to the inaugural Mountain Craft Film Festival. Films, movies, motion pictures, whatever you call them, they're coming to Clarksburg, West Virginia this coming September 29th and 30th. 4 feature-length films by local filmmakers, as well as countless short films from Appalachia for Appalachia. Not to mention food trucks, artisanal vendors, networking opportunities, an immersive virtual reality experience, and much, much more. All under the roof of the beautiful historic Robinson Grand Performing Arts Center. Purchase passes now at mtncraft.com/film festival. Sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with festival news, and don't miss out on a single story these voices have to tell. Sorry.
WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
We're going to here it goes. Welcome to West Virginia Uncommon Place. My name is JR Sparrow, and I am here today with an amazing author. His name is Colin Leonard. Colin, please say hi to everybody and tell us just a little bit about yourself before I ask you my famous question.
Hi, JR, and hi, everyone else, and the people on Twitch who are looking backstage. My name's Colin Leonard. As you said, I'm a horror author from County Mead in Ireland, and I keep saying that County Mead is where we invented Halloween. So,
all right, so do this for me real quick. Give me a little insight to this whole idea of Halloween coming from where you're from. Tell me a little bit about this, because look, I do not have knowledge about this, and I want to know.
Okay, so we have these big hills around County Mead, the Hill of Clochta, the Lochrew Hills, which is called the Slieve na Calig, which is the Hill of the Witch. So back in the olden days, they used to hold fire festivals on these, and at Samhain time. So they reckon that's the precursor to Halloween as we know it.
Okay, so Colin, tell us a little bit about yourself so the audience can get a little bit more personable with you, because we want to know what shaped and molded you to decide to start writing, because writing is a very hard thing to do. People think that just because we went to school and we did a little creative writing, had to write a few papers, probably even wrote a few stories that could have been novels if we put them all together. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing and tell us what got you into writing.
So I was always a huge reader from when I was a kid, and got into writing as well, doing essays in school, that sort of thing. When I was in secondary school, which is, I guess, your high school over
Yes.
there, I would have entered school magazine competitions and writing stories set in the Vietnam War and about alien invasions and things like that. So, and it was an all boys school, so they lapped it up and won a couple of prizes at that. So I always wanted to write, and because I was obsessed with reading, the only thing I wanted to do in university was English literature. So I did that, and then fell into various other parts of life, and writing went by the wayside for a good while. Now, I still would have written all the time, but I was between working, partying. I'm of an age that was big into the clubbing generation and the rave generation back when I was in my early mid-20s, and then travel, everything else, just kind of everything got mixed up, until I really put my head down and said, okay, apart from the writing, I'd like to get this stuff published. So that was another journey after that. But
Okay, so let me ask you, so you go through this journey of life, like you said, what you call secondary school, we call high school. So you went off in high school, all boys school, and you wrote things and people got entertained by them. So when people got entertained by your work, did one of your colleagues or one of your friends just come up to you and say, "Hey, I like what you're doing"? Did someone give you like a little bit of motivation behind what you were writing, or a teacher maybe to continue going further with it on in life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had really good English teachers. There was Mrs. Boyle who was very encouraging for most of my secondary school life there. And funny, and friends as well would have been encouraging and liked it. My parents were great. My family were very encouraging of writing. We were a house that was filled with books as well. My grandfather was a published poet. He was a working man, but he got poems published in the national newspapers over here. Kind of, he was friends with a very famous poet, Francis Ledwidge, who was around our area. He was a World War One poet. So that kind of sense of literature being always important, but not just important, but fun as well. Hence the leaning towards horror and genre stuff as well as literary fiction.
Okay. I like the sound of that, and I like how it all rolled around and then it formed who you are today. So let's do this real quick. You get out of secondary school, you get to college, or you get into the real world of working and stuff. Did you have to put your books on hold when you got out of high school or out of secondary school? Did you go to college? What happened after secondary school?
After that, as I say, I went to UCD, University College Dublin, and picked English literature to study. Now, again, wasn't with any career in mind. It was just I wanted to do English lit over there. Now, this was kind of before there were creative writing courses over in Ireland. I couldn't pick or even go for an MFA or anything like that, which probably I would have if had it been nowadays. But the other thing as well, going to college when you're 18, moving away from home, and being there with your friends and girls and booze and all the other temptations that are in front of you. Writing may have took a back seat for a little while.
Understandable. So you get into college, you got out of college, and then you get off in the world, you start your life. Now, what was the first part of writing that you started when you started your adult life? Because I want to ask you another question before we get to that one. Did you see a difference from the writings that you did in your adolescence to adulthood when you first started?
Yeah.
Or after your first book?
Certainly, I think a big change came when I hit around 30 years old. I was traveling around the world. I was over on the other side of the world in New Zealand, and shortly after that, I went to India for a while. And around that time, I was writing more focused stuff, more let's call them, I suppose, traditionally standard stories, a lot of short stories, and also trying to put together a novel. But I was a long way away from being able to to write a novel. But I also found places to send them at that stage. Beforehand, I would have just been kind of writing in the dark, as it were, without knowing what to do with my work. But I put a little effort into finding little horror magazines to send them to. When it was over in New Zealand, I got my first one story published. It wasn't published in New Zealand, it was published in the UK, but I was in New Zealand when that happened. So that was pretty cool. And I marked it with a tattoo of a ghost.
So let me ask you this. So once you got this published in the UK, how did that make you feel? Like, did it make you feel that you were accomplished, or did it make you feel like you were starting on your journey, like you were getting ready to get out there and do more than just what you had already put out?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely, it was a marker. It was something, the first thing published was a really big deal for me. And even though I was kind of old enough to understand that, as you say, it was just the start of where I wanted to go. But yeah, it was important. It was very exciting to see your story, the words you wrote in the magazine was a big deal. All right.
Okay. Now,
And I got a fiver for it as well.
oh, seriously?
Yeah, big money.
Ooh.
Five English pounds.
Oh, okay. So you got out there, got a little change. And then what happened after New Zealand?
After New Zealand, I went to India, spent 6 months over there, did some more traveling, came back here to Ireland, again, caught up with work, and I'm a big music fan. I would have gone to a lot of festivals, concerts, things like that. And around shortly after I came back from India, or a year or two after I came back from India, I met the love of my life, who's now my wife.
Ooh, okay.
And
Congratulations.
Thanks. And then we traveled to India, and then we, for a little while, and then came back to Ireland and started a family. Bought a little 200-year-old cottage in the middle of the country. So that's started filling out with babies and enjoying the rural. We both come from a rural background. So even though we would have traveled and lived in cities and done all that, it was important for us to bring our kids up in the middle of the countryside with a field that they could chase butterflies and make dens and run around in. So we did all that, and that was kind of a spur to take things more seriously. I got a bad soccer injury at that time as well. I would have played soccer most weekends. I was quite into soccer. So, and funny, it was around that time, and that was around the birth of my first child, that I said, right, I'm going to have to take writing more seriously now, go back to it, and try and write a novel.
Okay. Now, let's go into the nitty gritty why we are here today. Country roads, don't go outside alone. Now, this book here, you published it in July, correct?
Yep.
And this book is readily available where? And I'm going to say one place I know, Amazon.
Amazon, that's one place. The other place you can go to is my publisher's website, and they're called Bridget's Gate Press. And the good thing about going there, they'll probably lead you to Amazon, but you can check out all their other great titles while they're there. They have a ton of dark stuff and horror stuff, really good things going on at the moment. They're a very vibrant publisher.
Okay. Now, audience, one thing that we do on this show, we do this thing we call the shameless plug. And the shameless plug is something that we do so that you can find the author of this book, which is Colin. And if you want to get more enticed into anything and everything that he will be doing and has done from the past, present, and future, you can find him. So, Colin, real quick, could you please give us a shameless plug where people can meet and greet you across the internet?
Across the internet, have it all gathered at collyleonard.com. So that's COLLY Leonard, LEONARD.com. And that'll bring you to, as you say, all my stuff that I've done, any anthologies I'm in, any social media that I'm on, which isn't loads, but I'm on Twitter. You can always say hi there.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, X now. That's a crazy thing. You're the first podcast I've done since that's all happened, but we were not going to go talk all about that. Get Elon and them some money on that. No, we're not going to do that. So here's the thing, audience. I want you to remember this. The great thing about podcasts, inside the show notes, all the information that we have said here today will be available, and I will put an ebook link directly to this, and I will get from Colin the rest of the information later to put in those show notes so that you guys can go to the show notes and find him and meet and greet him across the internet, get enticed with his books, and continuously keep following him for the rest of your lives as long as he continues to do whatever makes Colin perfect. So, Colin, please.
Thanks very much.
Please do me an amazing favor. Now, one thing I want to say, and this is just for the West Virginia people, when I saw that Country Roads, I was like, an Irishman writing about West Virginia, and then I had to take a turn, and it's not about West Virginia, but the title will entice you. So any of my West Virginia audience, please definitely go check this out, because Country Roads, he's telling you they won't take you home if you go alone. So definitely, can you please tell us a little bit about this book, because I want people to get enticed. That's the word I like to use. That's my way to pull people. If you can't get enticed, you can't get into things.
Okay, so no, it's not about West Virginia, although it probably doesn't do any harm for people to remember it thanks to the song. But it's about the country roads that are out that window behind me. Because when we moved out to the middle of nowhere here, little did we realize that there was demons and old ancient creatures in these country roads that we live in beside. And you'd hear all sorts of crazy stuff going on. Now, could have been just joyriders, but I like to think that it was cluricons and far darrigs who are like evil goblins that are coming from Irish mythology. So that's I I like to have a bit of Irish ghosts or Irish monsters in most of my horror stories. Because if we're not writing about them over here, no one's going to. So I like to keep those myths alive. So I was inspired by the spookiness of our country roads, the old trees and the old ancient stuff that's around, and the old stories that are spoken about around here. And I kind of mixed all that together with contemporary society and the nastiness of and snipiness of small town life as well. So it's probably not a happy-go-lucky sort of read, but if you like if you
If
like
you like,
tension and you like nasty imagery, spooky imagery, and creepy old myths, then I think you'll get a kick out of it.
so let me ask you this: is there anything like really grotesque in the book, or is there anything that would kind of pull you a certain way, or is this something that like you would read around October, around Halloween to tie in, or just read it when you have some free time during the day with the lights on?
It's got a yeah, that kind of Halloweeny sort of vibe, obviously, with the imagery. There is a tree called the Twisted Tree that appears throughout the novel, and it acts kind of as a portal uh for some of the evil that comes through into the world. And there's all sorts of gruesome things that happen near that tree. I won't spoil them all, but yeah,
Okay, yeah.
it's kind of gory in places, but
Okay. So let me move on with this. So you have this book out now, and everybody
mm,
always wants to know about the future or what in the past can they. Let's go future and past. Is there anything else that you have inside your anthologies that you would want people to grab onto?
oh, absolutely. There's just released actually is volume 8 of the horror library from Dark Moon Books, and that's a wonderful series. I was lucky enough to be in Horror Library Volume 7 with another kind of old Irish tale about the devil. Um, and this time round, I am in it with a story called Clay, which is kind of given a nod to the old James Joyce short story, but also involves an ancient mountain. It's kind of terror horror in a way, I suppose you'd call it.
Okay. Now let me
Um,
ask you this: you have something else you're involved with. It's called "It Calls from the Veil," correct?
yes, yes.
And what is your
From
involvement in that? And please, let's definitely get into that real quick.
so that anthology has my story Done Deal in it, which is more of a modern one. More, uh, it's got a nasty, what would you call him? A necromancer type guy.
Oh,
So um, he and yeah, that's kind of creepy. That's from Erie River Publishing, who are in Canada, and they're
okay.
another really
Whoa.
good small press. Yeah. So most of my stuff tends to get picked up in the UK or Canada or America. It's not that much of a horror scene over in Ireland, believe it or not. Well,
That's wild. While you got all that stuff going on over there, like you're saying.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I want to tell you something real quick before we go any further. Thank you for bringing this mythology to people and making it worldwide? Because I know that people could say that these things with hearsay and different stuff like that. We could pay you to come from Ireland and tell us all this like a folklore with a fire and everything, which would be pretty cool. But thank you for publishing this. So real quick, I wanted to do a little bit with you that I do with every single author that comes on this show. And I used to do a special show called Author Circle. I want to ask you some questions about the creation process of your writing, because what I have found from one writer to one author to another author to a prose to whatever they're doing, no one is the same. Never can find a duplicated story. So let me ask you this, Colin. When you get the idea to write something, how does it come out? And does it come on pen and paper, or are you typing it, or are you putting it on a computer? Because I got one lady that's all the way out there. Where was she at? She was in Australia, actually. She actually still has a typewriter, a Brother typewriter, and she types her stuff out, even though she's going to take it and put it somewhere else. She takes the man hours or whatever hours you want to call them, types the stuff out, marks through things, edits it, and then she goes to type it on her computer, which is a lot of typing. But I want to know your process.
So my process is, and I used to write freehand. I used to pen and paper, and I'd write it out freehand, and then I would use the transcription of that as the editing process. But what really kind of made me more productive was I got this. Well, it's not this one. This is about the third generation of it. It's a just a tablet that has my Kindle on it. I only use it for reading and writing. So it's just purely literature in that. So I will write in Google Docs on that. I'll write all my first drafts in Google Docs on that. And then, because that means I can do it anywhere. I have that with me all the time. I'm never looking for pen or paper. I write in car parks. I write while I'm waiting for the kids to come out of a dance class or whatever. So if I always have that with me, I can get my writing done, and then I'll transfer from Google Docs into Word, look at it in different fonts and all that, and tidy it up after on a desktop.
Okay. Now, here's the hardest question, and it's not the criticism question, because everybody can answer criticism question, but writer's block. Have you ever experienced it, or have you had notions of it? Because I've heard from some people that they've never had writer's block, but they've had sometimes where they had to stop because the emotions and what they're writing about sometimes was overwhelming. So to you, did you have writer's block at any point?
I wouldn't say writer's block, more kind of laziness, the same way as if you're going to the gym all the time. You mightn't want to go every day, or you mightn't want to go, but once you're in there, you can do it. That's the hardest thing, is to, if you're not feeling it, to force yourself to start writing. But even if you just sit down half an hour, 200 words, that's it. Now, other than that, you need a break sometimes. And I've only, because I was doing a lot of publicity and that kind of stuff for the release of the novel, I took a good month-ish off. I had other anthology stuff, edits and things happening, so I didn't write any fresh words there until about a week ago, and then I just got slowly back in. But it's just forcing yourself to sit and write 200 words, and it'll build up and build up.
Okay. Now, in any of your writing at the later age, have you had to deal with any strong criticism? Like someone said, maybe you could have done this way, or maybe you could have done this that way. Have you ever had to deal with any type of criticism like that? And if you have dealt with it, how do you transfer that into your work later?
Do you mean kind of like criticism from editors or publishers?
Yeah, like from editors and publishers, because I'm not worried about like the actual people that read your books, because they're going to have they're going to take, or your short stories and different things, they're going to have any type of notions they have towards it.
Yeah.
For which you write, they're going to get a strong emotion. So it ain't going to be too much criticism to it. They're going to be like, "Woo," a little scared. But what about editors and publishers? Like, have you had any?
I've had usually, and it's funny with short story anthologies, because the numbers that are submitting to them are so massive, like you're talking in your hundreds, in your thousands for some of them, that if you get accepted, you're usually just dealing with light edits after that, because if it's not nearly ready to go, they're not going to take it, because they're going to have so much good quality stuff there. If it's not ready to go, they'll just pick the next one. And so not so much with the anthologies. I had a really good editor, L. Turpett, from Wales, who did Country Roads, and that was a whole new experience for me, with a full-length novel and a bigger publisher, and she gave me great feedback. But it was a bit overwhelming to look at it all and try and get through it all. But you just have to take it chunk by chunk. And, editors as well, they want to, because their name is tied to the book, so they want to make it the best they can. So some things you'll go, okay, I left that for a particular reason, and other things you'll go, yeah, they're right. I just have to put in the work and make it how it should be.
Okay. Now, moving along real quick. So we got through that part. Now, thank you for doing that, because you don't understand today, but tomorrow you will, how much insight you have given to other authors. So thank you for that. So we deal with something serious on the show. In America, we had this news magazine, which was a television show called 2020. It had these reporters on there. One's name was David Stossel, one was Diane Sawyer, and another one was Barbara Walters. Everybody knows who Barbara Walters is. She was the famous reporter and stuff. So they had a show called 2020. On 2020, they ask you certain questions that are real tight, real personable, and they move and shake people in different ways. For me, as a kid, I was 5, 6, 7 years old watching these shows, and I would see something intriguing, and it would carry over into my Saturday morning. So, Colin, it's your turn now to get your 2020 questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So the greatest thing in life is the success that we breed or control or make. In my life, I've learned this one thing about success. Success, I'm never going to put a measuring stick to it. Success, I'm going to say that it's the progression of something that I've done better from yesterday till today. I'm never going to say success has a set of stairs or has a plateau to it. So, Colin, the serious question right now is, does success have a definition with you? And if you do have a definition of success, please explain it to the audience and tell us how you have started to succeed in success.
My biggest ambition, and once I kind of thought about it, for writing, was to have a novel published, to have a book out there. And whether it was going to be a bestseller or a little cult classic, or even if it just moved a couple of people or gets passed down through my kids to my grandkids, that kind of thing, that they go, oh, Colin wrote a book. So that's enough success. Anything else is gravy.
Yes.
So, and obviously I want to keep writing. I love writing. I'd be writing anyway. But as I say, that was a main driving force, just to have something out there that I could be proud of. And funny enough, everyone kind of looks and thinks, oh, you're not a real writer unless you've written a novel. Like, not that I necessarily feel that, but I did feel I wanted to write something long form before I could say that I was a success in what I wanted to do for myself.
Okay. I like that. Now, here goes the next question. This is a hard-hitting question. Now, everyone always talks about how they got inspired to write and stuff like this, but this is the first time I'm going to actually ask you this question. I've never asked anyone else. What was the first literary instrument? And when I say that, it could be a book, it could have just been you reading a pamphlet somewhere. What was the first literary, or we can even say device, whatever you want to say, or literary work? That's a better way. Literary work is what we'll go with, that caught your attention. For me, it was crazy. When I was growing up, it was this author named Ronald Dahl. He wrote this book called James and the Giant Peach.
Oh yeah.
Never watched the movie. That was the one that caught me in the intent of speed reading. But there was a book by what was the lady's name? Norton Juster or Juster Norton. It was called The Phantom Toll Booth. It was the first chapter book, and it had illustrations in it too. So, obviously child-minded at that age, that I read completely through, and I read it again. And The Phantom Toll Booth is something that I pass along to everybody. Never seen the cartoon or anything that goes with it. Never heard anything else about it because I thought it would be an amazing book to turn into a movie like everything else. But those were the first two things in my life that inspired me to want to read, wanted me to get into. Obviously, we had creative writing in my time frame, so it allowed me to go into creative writing and write different things at that point. And obviously, I moved on to this medium. But what was the first, book or something that tied you into loving reading and writing?
Funny enough, because I saw someone reading a copy of Asterix and Obelix the other day. Do you know Asterix and Obelix? The Gauls and Getafix and all those guys. And I just remember being brought, because we'd go to the library every weekend in Navan, our local town, and just being so excited in case there was a new Asterix and Obelix book there. So that was the one that really, so you have that touch of comedy, history, and adventure, and a little bit of magic as well.
Ooh, and that's a good one. And that's something that I can say too, because both of them, like from the books to the show or the movies that came out, and even over here, what's bigger now is the video games. Like, I
haven't seen the movie. I don't want to ruin my memories.
Right, you don't. They're animated, but the animated ones I haven't seen. I don't know if there's a live action, but there's quite a few animated. Yeah. So that's crazy. So I like that. Now here goes our last question, and this is a hard hitting one. We never have a regret in the world. We don't want to regret anything. We always think of modifications we can do to things. But if there was one thing that you could add to your repertoire of skills with writing, what would it be? Because some people say that they have certain literary devices, like some people can write really well with foreshadowing. Some people can write really well, the different literary devices, like using alliteration, blah, 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 all that other stuff that you can use. What is something that you would add to your arsenal that you don't have?
I think possibly, and this is one of the reasons I'm drawn more towards horror, and I love horror. I think I'm okay with things like imagery and even tension, but I'd love to be able to write crime and real kind of intricate mystery stuff. I just and when I'm reading it or watching it, I kind of go, I get too caught up in it to nearly looking at it in a structural manner to learn from it, which is a testament to the writing of that. But yeah, I wish I kind of had that naturally to be able to write really intricate kind of crime, mystery, detective stuff.
Okay, so Colin, you just set yourself up for something. The next time that you and I talk, you should be able to do that, right?
I hope so. When are we talking? About 10 years time?
Whatever time it takes, but it will happen. And that's the greatest thing about authors, because you can do makeshift stuff. You can work that into your arsenal, whenever you want. So I will congratulate you, and I will definitely be on the lookout for some type of crime novel or something from you. There's a lot of things that you could tie in, and I could see something wild with horror and crime.
Yes.
Sort of like maybe not so much the what was the Sherlock Holmes story where there was
Hand of the Baskervilles.
Yes.
Or like the great Irish contemporary writer John Connolly?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of a mixture between horror and crime. Yeah.
So Colin, you just told me about your feature right there. I like that. I appreciate that. Now, to tie everything together, Colin, I need you real quick to give a huge shout out to everybody that has helped you fortify and build the Colin Leonard that is here today. Be it a teacher, your mother, your father, everybody. If you just want to do everybody at one instance, please do that, because we never pay homage to the people that help us get to where we are. Because I always hear from people that some people are like, oh, I just did it all on my own. I'm like, no, there was somebody there. There was somebody that either encouraged you or discouraged you, because it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. Somebody moved you in a way to get you to who you are today. Me, for instance, people said, you always talk. do a podcast. You're one of those ones that likes to hear folklores about the Appalachian Mountain or Appalachian Mountains. You're a storyteller. Do a podcast. You can't write a book very well, so definitely write a story or tell a story, through this physical media. So, Colin, go ahead.
So, yeah, as I said before, my parents, my family, my brothers and sister, my grandparents were all so encouraging. My godfather, my uncle, and then I had a close circle of university friends who were so into literature, and we all really put writing and reading up there, nearly as high as as partying. But and then after that, the little family I have now with my wife and my kids are just an inspiration.
Okay. And I thank you for doing that. And we really appreciate that. So, audience, before we tie this up here, I'm going to leave you with my famous statement that I've been doing on the later podcasts that you'll find. Once again, just a quick recap. This has been Colin Leonard. He has an amazing book that has been published in July. And right now we're recording this in August. This will be out in September. Country Roads, with hyphenated, Don't Go Outside Alone. So I want you all to pick this up over on Amazon, or head over to his publisher, which that is Creative. No.
Bridget's Gate.
I'm sorry about that. I was talking about.
I know.
My bad.
Yeah.
Shout out to the publicist on this also. So
Mickey's great too.
Right. And then one other thing, I want you guys to head over to www.collynleonard.com, or you can catch him under that same name on Twitter. And once again, Colin, please leave us with a little bit that you want the audience to hear at the very end of the show. Because the greatest thing is that we have listeners that come midway through the show. I know that sounds crazy, but they like to skip the stuff that pays the bills, the ads and stuff, and they go straight to the middle sometimes, and then they listen to the end. So please give them a quick roundabout of where they can meet and greet you, like I just did, and just a little something to end the show with.
Yeah, so you can catch me, as you said, on collyleonard.com, on Twitter at Colin Leonard, and I'm going to keep writing spooky, creepy Irish stories that tie in old legends and contemporary Irish society. So if you're into either of those things and you want a nice gory scare, then check out Country Roads.
And once again, I am JR from West Virginia and Commonplace. And listen, remember this, audience, and however you see this, if you see it visual or if you listen to it, always seek the uncommon, because seeking the uncommon is going to definitely tie you into the story, because this is uncommon. So definitely I want you all to go seek it, bring it back into your dwelling or whatever you're doing in life, embrace it, and then let Colin know about it. Everything will be inside the show notes. So, like always with every single show, I am signing off. Colin, you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, goodbye, everyone. Thanks a million. Thank you so much, JR. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks a million for the opportunity.
All right, guys. Hey, everybody. This is JR from West Virginia and Commonplace, and I am here to tell you about Anchor Nebula and their Go Anywhere series of projectors. They are some of the best projectors you can use when you're on the go, going camping, just even around the house. And these models include the Capsule 2, the Capsule 3 laser, and the brand new Mars 3. So definitely take time to go out and grab one of these projectors, and you will be immersed in an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else. Remember, Anchor Nebula is the way to go.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at onecommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.